So let's talk about the NFL. What I want to start off with, I'll tell you what, let's start off with this, and maybe we'll have more time to do it next week. But I hadn't done any of this research until just now because I started hearing it. I started hearing people talk about Dak Prescott for MVP and Brock Purdy for MVP. And I was, wait, what? Dak Prescott for NFL MVP? What's going on here? Brock Purdy? And because I went, wait a second, I remember a month or so ago, and you remember in the Cleveland game, I remember Mr. MVP Brock Purdy
Oh yeah.
playing without McCaffrey, playing without Trent Williams, and playing without Deebo Samuel. And I remember him going 0-3.
Yes, he did.
How in the what am I missing here? You're an MVP. You're the one that's supposed to elevate the team, not when the players come out around you, you disappear. That's not an MVP. That what that means to me is Deebo Samuel is an MVP, Christian McCaffrey's an MVP, and Trent Williams is an MVP. Brock Purdy's fourth. He's the fourth most valuable player on that team, and he's
Well,
co
he should be up for the MVM award, Most Valuable Manager, because it's the talent that's around him that makes San Francisco the team they are, as you said.
Yeah, we don't want to take anything away from him. It's been a great story. It's
Yes.
great to see what he's done. Loved him playing at Iowa State. The fact of the matter is, though, NFL MVP, that is just absolutely ridiculous because I'm looking at also, I mean, to me, Tyreek Hill, 16-1. NFL MVP. He's probably not going to get it. I'm not a big Tyreek Hill fan, all the off the field stuff, but the fact is he is a major valuable player for the Miami Dolphins. And even we just talked about Christian McCaffrey. How in the world is Christian McCaffrey 40-1 to be the NFL MVP?
You mean the guy that's going to be the MVP? I don't know.
How is he not though? How is he considered 40-1 and Brock Purdy is like under 2-1 to win
Because
NFL MVP?
it's a quarterback world we live in the National Football League.
Yeah.
But I think CMAC is going to destroy that this football season here. He's going to get to the point and do things for San Francisco. You're going to say, how can he not be the MVP of this football team?
You know, when he came out, I remember we probably have it listed in the library at ourlads.com because I've got shows from when we were just doing audio, and that was when McCaffrey was coming out. And I said that draft season with Dan Shanka, and I said, you know what? I think Christian McCaffrey should be the top pick of the draft. And but I understood why he wouldn't be because of his size. You know, he's not going to come in like Adrian Peterson, where you can have an excuse for why he might be the number one player. Even though back then running backs weren't even considered top picks, but still, you could just see how good this kid was going to be. And did he get injured? That was predictable because of his size.
Yes.
But now that he's on San Francisco and he's on a team that can exploit his skills as best as possible, it just shows you the kid is just. I'm sorry, but I think you could put Sam Darnold in, and I think you could. I think you might be able to get to the Super Bowl, not win it, but I think get there. You take Christian McCaffrey out, you're going nowhere.
Hey, bring Trey Lance back. Put him in there. What's it going to matter? You know?
Well, yeah, he's with the Dak. He's sitting behind Dak Prescott
there
in Dallas.
You go.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about the NFL, and we've got 3 games on Saturday. So now my best play of the week is actually the first game on Saturday. I got the Bengals against the Vikings. We talked about this on your show, and the fact is, I think this is one of those stats you can get. Look, I don't know why anybody out there listening or watching this show hasn't already picked up the playbook guide. And if you fail to do it this year, don't fail to do it next year because this was in the guide. And Cincinnati is now 21-6 straight up, 21-5-1 against the spread in their last 27 versus non-division opponents. And then throw in the fact they're 20-2 straight up in the last 22 when those opponents are winning teams. They're 5-0 in that spot this year, 2-0 in the last 2 with Browning at quarterback. So it's not all about Mr. Superstar. So the Bengals are playing some really good football. I just don't like where the Vikings are right now. They were able to win last week. The core backup comes in, number 3 comes in, does a fine job. What he had to do with limited time in the game to just win the game and not throw the ball away or screw it up like Dobbs. I don't like the way the Vikings are headed. I just think that there's just so many times you can go down that well. And I think the Bengals are heading up. I think the Vikings are kind of slipping, and I'm only giving 3.5 at home.
Well, Cincinnati is checking a lot of good boxes right now, and Minnesota is beginning to show signs of unraveling. And so many times we see backup quarterbacks step into a game, whether it's during the middle of the game and rally a team to victory, a 3-0 victory, uh, and then get exposed the next football game, which they could well do here at Cincinnati because they've got life, they've got blood, they're in the playoff chase.
And now they're going
And
to look at film and they're going to say, now we know who's playing.
exactly right. And the AFC North, you can look at Baltimore and Cleveland, and anybody else can be caught in this division. That's where Cincinnati, I think they know, Pittsburgh's looking and going to stay in the rearview mirror. They're not going to be a problem. So they're feeling awfully confident about themselves there. The only thing that bothers me is Minnesota is, again, one of these things that we love doing in our midweek statistical newsletter. They are the underdog with the better offense and the better defense. But how many different quarterbacks did they use to put those offensive numbers up? That's the question.
Yeah. Cousins, obviously, and then Dobbs did an incredible job for those first few games. So now they're down at quarterback number 3. Indy, Pittsburgh, and another one of those situations where you got the team that has been dominated by the other team, and that team is the favorite. The Pittsburgh Steelers have beaten the Indianapolis Colts 8 straight in the series, including 7 of the last 9 years. And yet the Colts are a 1.5-point favorite in this one. The Colts had their winning streak snapped. By the way, it's only their second home game since October 29th. So they haven't been home much since November. So this is going to feel good for them. How about this, though? The last 6-point spread games for the Indianapolis Colts have been between a 2-point favorite and a 2-point dog.
Wow, that's tight football.
Yes.
That's sort of what they're expected to play. They're not, to me, on my playlist. I sort of make them out to be frauds. And I'm just not convinced that they're a good team. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. And this is a team in Pittsburgh here that's going to come in here with a lot of need. And Mike Tomlin playing, scratching, clawing to do whatever he has to do to keep that record of never having had a losing season intact. But the key, Greg, the key to the whole thing is TJ Watt's going to be in the lineup. And this team is 100% totally different when he's in the lineup and when he's not in the lineup. I think they're 1-12 the last 13 games he's missed. So I'm with Pittsburgh in this football game. I think they're the better football team.
Yeah, they haven't scored a lot of points, and Trubisky's going to play again and all that stuff. But Colts can't stop the run, so expect Pittsburgh to run. You got Harris, you got Warren. That's going to be a big, game plan, you would think. By the way, Pittsburgh's schedule is tough. After this, they got to take on Cincinnati next Saturday, at Seattle, and then at Baltimore. Ooh. Not so sure Pittsburgh with their, and again, no idea when Pickett's coming back. Not that he's Dan Marino, but not sure Pittsburgh is going to make it. Maybe they get back to 500, but I think they're going to have a hard time.
Well, if they get the win here, they just need one more win. Is that correct? For the winning record?
For a winning record. Yeah, I think you're right about that. There you go. Okay.
I don't think they're really focused to the playoffs. They should be, but I think they're more concerned about finishing with the winning record personally.
Well, Tomlin is, that's for sure.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know why the heck Tomlin is. Well, look, I guess I understand it because they're talking about guys who may or may not be on the hot seat. And the ones that I've actually been stepped back from were Tomlin and Mike McCarthy. Because people are going, yeah, but Mike McCarthy is still making a lot of money, and what happens if he goes one and done in the playoffs? All right, well, maybe, I guess, but Garrett was the coach, and he took 10 years or whatever it was to get rid of the guy, and he didn't do anything that Mike McCarthy has seemed to do in the last couple of years, so I'm not so sure about that, unless there's somebody out there that he just absolutely loves. I don't know, maybe he's a Jim Harbaugh guy, or maybe he's, I don't know, Lincoln Riley, but... and then Pittsburgh with Tomlin, I don't know about that. I mean, that's just not a Pittsburgh Steelers thing to do.
No, I agree with you. It's not a Pittsburgh Steelers thing to do, but it's a football team I feel is the better team in this matchup here, and they're the underdog. I just, like I say, from the get-go, I think the Colts are a fraud.
All right, Denver and Detroit. Now, this happens to be part of one of your picks of the week, and Denver is getting almost 2-1 on the money line. Detroit's been struggling just a bit, and that has a lot to do, I think, as we talked on your show about. I think they're missing their identity, and their identity is smash mouth football first, play physical. I think they've gone away with that. We'll see whether or not they give a healthy dose of Montgomery in this game, because Denver, yes, they've been much better defensively in the second half of the season. Statistically, they're still not a very good run defensive team, so you would think that's the way to go. But the Broncos have won 6 out of 7, and it just shows you what I mean. Great coaches are just great coaches, and say what you want about Sean Payton, he's a great coach.
Well, he is a great coach. We're seeing that right now. In the beginning, people were wondering, especially after that shellacking they took against Miami. And we talked about this in our podcast, is that so many times people make the mistake of looking at a team's season to date, season long stats, and you don't find a true gauge of how they're actually playing. And if you meld the Denver results the first 3 weeks of the season when they had that rotten start to the football season, as opposed to what they've been doing here of late, it's a dramatic difference. This is a football team here that, if you look at them, their last 8 games, they've allowed just 16 points a game. That's pretty rock solid for a football team that's really on the come. And I think Detroit's raveling at the threads right now.
Yeah, and also, I don't know how many yards they gave up rushing in that game against the Dolphins, but I just mentioned how bad their run defense is. Well, it's going to be pretty bad. Let's see, here it is. It's going to be pretty bad when you give up 350 yards on the ground in one game. So yeah, that's gonna definitely. By the way, look, Detroit. This is their opponent. This is what they said last year at this time about Aaron Glenn. I don't know how many times towards the end of the season people kept talking about Detroit's defense stinks. They're gonna fire Aaron Glenn. But that was the first half of their defensive season. It was the second half. He was a rookie defensive coordinator. They were banged up early in the season. They needed time. And once the second half of the season came through, the defense started to improve. They started to get more with the scheme. They were a little bit healthier. And that's why when everybody looked after the season was over and had time to breathe and understand what was going on, you see why Aaron Glenn was still the defensive coordinator the next year. So you can get wrapped up too tight with everything going on and so many games each week, and you lose sight of what's going on unless you're following that one specific team. But this is exactly what you're saying with Denver. So.
Exactly. And, let's look at them for who they are today and not who they were to begin the football season, and we'll rest our case.
All right. Houston and Tennessee. So, yes, Houston's got some receiver issues, no question about that. We'll find out how Stroud rebounds after the loss, the embarrassing loss to the Jets defense. But some interesting trends to go against here. Houston, 3-1, straight up and against the spread. Their last 4 at Tennessee, all as dogs, like they are here, 3-point dog. 2-1 straight up, 3-0 against the spread. Their last 3 is a road dog this season. But Tennessee, 4-1 straight up and against the spread at home this year. Their only loss, overtime against Indianapolis, or they beat undefeated straight up and against the spread at home this year. They've also won 2 out of their last 3 straight up ATS. The loss, the overtime loss to Indianapolis, coming off the upset win over Miami. This should be this is it for Houston, I think. This is the defining game for Houston. They need to rebound fast after that loss last week because this, again, rookie coach, rookie quarterback, it can kind of change real fast. Tennessee, meanwhile, Mike Vrabel just continues to prove what kind of a coach he is.
Yeah, he does a nice job. They've really been hit on the skids most football season here, and he wins games that perhaps he surprises everybody and doesn't think they're going to win. But I don't like him laying points. I really don't. I like him in a surprise role as an underdog. Houston's coming in here with this rally around the starting quarterback with Davis Mills, who was their former starter and didn't play bad his last year. So all of a sudden, he's getting a second chance. This is rallying around missing C.J. Stroud. They're the team that's the dog that's alive in the playoffs. Tennessee's looking to pack the bags and go home for the holidays here. I think you can only look at Houston in this football game.
Yeah, and so great point, obviously. We'll see how long Stroud's out because that's going to be big if he misses more time. But, yeah, it wasn't like Mills was playing poorly.
Right.
And now he's got a better team, better coach team around him. And then, like we've all talked about, me and you for the last few years, it's that first game with the backup quarterback and how they rally. And yeah, that should be something to keep an eye on. All right, Jets in Miami. The lines dropped from like 12 to 9 since opening of the week. Probably have to do with Tyreek Hill, I would think. And there's still no word yet if Tyreek Hill is going to play. My gut tells me he's not going to play.
Well, what I'm hearing down here is, and then listening to coach speak from Mike McDaniel, and he's basically saying what every coach is supposed to say, that if he feels he can play, he'll play. If he doesn't, he won't. What does that tell us? Absolutely nothing. But more important than that is the fact that 4 starting offensive linemen are not playing for Miami. That's what put the pressure on Tonga Viola at the last football game. It's why he was sacked the last play of the football game here. You have to have a wall to protect this kid, and they don't have that wall. And if they don't have Tyreek Hill, it could be a long day for Miami.
Miami's won 7 straight at home against the Jets, 4-1 and 2 ATS in those games. Beat the Jets just a few weeks ago on that Black Friday game. Dallas coming into town next week. Another reason with a little cushion that I believe Tyreek Hill is going to rest this week to get ready for that Dallas game next week. Because you got to look at it. Look, if we can't beat the Jets without Tyreek Hill, I mean, what does that say about us? I mean, as great as he is, and maybe they don't, and then that says MVP Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
But I think you got to rest him. I think you need to keep making sure that he's as good and ready 100% as possible the rest of the season, because the next 3 games, Dallas, Baltimore, Buffalo, since the bye, they will have played 5 straight losing teams, and they need to take advantage of that with or without Tyreek Hill before they play this murderer's row of opponents coming up, and keeping him healthy is important. By the way, the Jets are 15-2 against the spread in their last 17 on the road, off a straight up win when they're taking on a division opponent with a winning percentage of 500 or better. So
you could rest assured that had Miami not blown that game last week,
he would sit.
And Tyreek Hill come up with a sore ankle, he would be resting for sure.
Yeah.
With this, like you say, this murderer's row they got coming up here, and why on God's green earth would McDaniel want to even think about risking injury to him?
Yes.
In a football game like this, let the kid get healthy. I know they're playing for that number 1 seed, but Tyreek Hill is worth a whole lot more than that number 1 seed. Believe me.
Chicago, Cleveland. Now, here's one of the games you got to keep an eye on the weather. As usual, big surprise in Cleveland. It's going to rain, 15 to 25 mile an hour winds. That's the weather forecast right now. Cleveland 6-1 straight up and against the spread at home this year, with 4 straight wins, including wins over playoff type teams like Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco. The Bears are starting to play better. They went 3 out of 4, covering 3 straight. And I know there were a lot of people a few weeks ago that had Matt Eberflus on the hot seat. In my opinion, get that off. I think that he is starting to show, because it's only been a couple of years, that he could be the guy. The defense is starting to come around, and that they don't have a ton of talent, but the defense is starting to come around. You got to give Fields an opportunity. Look, if you want to fire the offensive coordinator, fine. Do that in the offseason, bring someone else in. You're the defensive guy. But I think Eberflus is doing a good job at this point. I think this is a team that's going to continue to compete. But the Browns with Joe Flacco, I mean, Flacco has come out of nowhere. Look, this isn't the Jets. He's got the Cleveland Browns offensive line. This is a little bit easier for him at 38, 39 years old to sit back there and make some plays. He's showing it. I'm shocked that this is only a 3-point game. I really like the Browns.
Well, again, you hit on it. The Cleveland Browns offensive line has a lot of problems. They've got both of their starting tackles are out. The backups are wobbly in this football game. There's no team that's more banged up or injured than the Cleveland Browns this football season here. They're now on QB4.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco, who's doing a really, really complimentary job since he's taken over the program here. In fact, the Browns signed him for the rest of the year, rightfully so. But I think this is the Cleveland's chance in this football game here. They cannot afford to even think about losing to the Bears if they want to retain their position in the playoffs here. The Bears are going nowhere. Their draft pick for next year is already signed, sealed, and delivered. They've got Carolina's in their back pocket. So whatever Chicago does isn't going to matter here. But I think Cleveland comes with everything they've got in this game, somehow ekes out the win.
Yeah, and the fact that they have like the best offensive line coach in the NFL
For sure.
is the reason why, even with a couple of backup tackles, they can get the job done. And look, they got a great defense, and that defense against, I know Fields has been a little bit better, but that defense is what's going to win the football game. All right.
My only concern here, Greg, before we move on from this game is this: is that Justin Fields came to Ohio State from Georgia, but became a Cleveland Browns fan when he was at Ohio State and Columbus. So whether or not that's going to factor in this game remains to be seen. Being an Ohio State fan doesn't mean he's going to win the football game,
Sure.
but he might want to put on a show. Who knows?
Okay. Kansas City, New England. And this is a 7.5 point spread. You would think, all right, the Chiefs, enough of the losing. It's time to get better. Their schedule is pretty manageable. They should be able to probably going to win their last 4 of the season, 3 out of 4 at least. So they're going to be fine. And look, the Patriots are 1-5 straight up and against the spread at home, so that home shouldn't mean anything. But there's just something about the Chiefs that I'm just still not. I don't know if I can just go, okay, they're going to murder the Patriots. I'm going to take the Chiefs. Patriots had their win last week. That's probably going to go away. They're not that type of team, I think, like some of these other teams that might be able to play better, like the Bears or the Giants. I'm not sure they've got what it takes offensively to put a run together. But I would think that the Chiefs, Mahomes, is going to be pretty angry, and they'll find a way to cover that spread.
I kind of think they will too. I know we're not. I'm not supposed to do that. Statistically, they're a mess. Kansas City is. They shouldn't be laying points in the road with this rush defense as porous as it is. But you got the fact of the matter is, if you look at this team, they're 5-0 straight up into the spread when coming off of a home loss, and they're getting away from home where they need to breathe some fresh air in a football game like this. You got the Patriots feeling pretty good about themselves right now. I think Kansas City gets the job done as well.
Atlanta, Carolina, and look, I did something. The trends tell you why I like Carolina in this game. I know they've only won once, but when they won, I liked them in that game. There's going to be rain, so this can come into factor. Even though both teams are not going to pass the football that much to success, but still, here's some reasons I like Carolina. The dog in this series has won and covered the last 4 at Carolina. So whenever there's a dog, the last 4 years, whoever that has been in Carolina has won and covered. That favors Carolina. Atlanta, if you take a look at them, they're 1-10 against the spread. In their last 11 as a road favorite of 2 or more. 0-2 in that spot this year. They're 0-8 against the spread as an NFC favorite of less than 9 when they take on a team with a winning percentage of 300 or less. Also, if you take a look at, we talked about the point spreads. How about this one? The last 6 point spread games for the Atlanta Falcons have been as a favorite of 3 or less. 6 straight as a favorite of 3 or less, with the last 3 games as a 1-point favorite in all 3. That's just crazy point spread stuff. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but what it means to me is even if Carolina doesn't win, and I know it's only 3 points, but what it says is Atlanta can't even find ways of covering 3 whenever they win games. So I'm going to go ahead and take Carolina in this one.
My main concern here is the playoff factor here. Atlanta was sitting number 4, representing the NFC South. They lost to Tampa last week. They dropped all the way to number 11. Carolina, where are they going? They're not going to do anything. Even if they do, all their rewards are going to Chicago anyway. And this team, like you said, has won just 2 games this football season here. I'm going to lean to Atlanta for the need in the football game and the fact that I think they can get the job done. I think they're a little PO'd about losing last week in the manner in which they lost, but you got some great trends there, no doubt about it, to Carolina.
Yeah, actually, I believe the Panthers have just 1 win.
1 win, yes. 1 win, yeah. But maybe we can say 2 after
Maybe we can, yes. And look, it's all about Bryce Young. It's about his growth, and he needs to, so that's important. Giants and Saints. Saints are a 6-point favorite. Giants are 2-1 on the money line, and I'm jumping all over the Giants. And why is that? Couple of reasons. I mentioned this trend earlier this year, and it came through again. Head coach Dennis Allen is 1-15 against the spread following a straight up ATS win. And he's 0-2 in that spot this year. So I'm taking the Giants, who have won 3 straight with 2 upsets of 7 against Washington, 5 of Green Bay. Numbers way too big here in my mind. I'm taking the Giants.
Well, there is no respect for the Giants here, regardless of what they did against Green Bay in that Monday Night Football game. But that stat is staggering as far as the head coach goes, Dennis Allen, 1-15 off of a Suats win. It's kind of tough to get in front of and use him to run with him, especially saying that he doesn't have the ability to do it twice in a row. But again, one team is really in the playoff hunt, the other is not. Small lean to me for New Orleans, but that 1-15 stat, I'll keep my hand in my pocket.
Tampa Bay, Green Bay. Green Bay 3.5-point favorite. I know you got a free pick in this one on the Playbook Experts YouTube channel. Bucks. By the way, my preseason pick to win the South. Don't forget that. 3-4 straight up. 6-1 against the spread as a road dog this year. They love this spot. This is their 4th road game in 5 weeks. The Packers, meanwhile, 3-0 straight up and against the spread. Their last 3 at home. Keep in mind, it'll be 40 degrees. This is a Florida team that could come into play. Packers, though, have a very easy schedule after this. All winnable games. Not easy, but they should win them if they're a playoff team. Tampa Bay, Jacksonville next week. New Orleans after that. A little bit tougher. This is gonna be a tough game. I mean, this one I'm kind of I just don't know if Tampa Bay can get that next win because they have not won 3 straight since 2021.
Well, it's been a while. There's no question about it. They come in hungry. Now they've got that number 4 seed. They wrested it away from Atlanta. Green Bay sitting at the number 8 seed, so they really can't afford a loss here as well. But I'm going to lean small to Tampa Bay in this football game here. Some good trends to them. You know, when they're coming off of a win and taking on an opponent off a loss, they're 9-2 to the spread, doing just that. And since I'll be truthful with you, Matt LaFleur has turned into nothing since he lost his quarterback. I know Jordan Love is scrambling and trying to become that quarterback, but the numbers aren't there yet for the Green Bay Packer team. I'm going to hope the weather doesn't do Tampa Bay in. I'll play them plus the points.
Yeah, Love was on a nice run, and the problem was Christian Watson. He's such a big speed player for him. He just started to come around healthy. Love was coming around. Monster couple of weeks. Big wins, Detroit and Kansas City. And then he gets hurt late in the Kansas City game. Doesn't play against the Giants. Probably not playing this week, so keep that in mind. But yeah, I kind of like where they're going. They just got to get Watson healthy. And by the way, Aaron Jones hasn't been playing either, and that's been missing. A few more games to go. Dallas and Buffalo is a big one, of course. Buffalo a 2-point favorite. There should be some potential rain. What a surprise in Buffalo. The Bills 2-1 straight up ATS last 3. The only loss in that run was the overtime one at Philly. Dallas 0-2 straight up and against the spread on the road versus winning teams this year. They lost to San Francisco. They lost to Philly. I think they're losing to Buffalo as well. Bills desperately need this one. I mentioned this a few weeks ago on your show. I think Buffalo was a great bargain with the Super Bowl futures being what they were. They're still a good number. I think you got to take advantage of that because this is a team that could definitely make a deep run in the postseason, especially if people start looking at them as an underdog.
Yeah, I mean, there's a football team here that all of a sudden appears to have awoken from a slumber that they went into. And you know they're capable. They're more than capable. A lot of people thought, in fact, that this could be a Super Bowl preview type football game. And it may. Who knows? But if you look at Dallas's numbers here, their home-road dichotomy is drastically different. They do all their damage at home. They struggle on the road. They're off of big wins the last couple of weeks here. But more importantly, they're off 3 successive home wins in a row. Now they're picking up and taking out onto the road against a team that's a good team in need of a win here. I like Buffalo with you in the game.
And then the primetime games, Baltimore, Jacksonville, Sunday Night Football. Baltimore's got some really tough games coming up. Jacksonville on Sunday, San Francisco, Monday Night Football, Dolphins, Pittsburgh. So they've won 7 out of 8, but I think that's going to come maybe crashing here. Maybe they go 2-2 in their last 4. Jacksonville, meanwhile, 2-3 straight up ATS last 5 since the bye. 0-2 in their last 2. Lawrence, maybe he shouldn't have even played last week, but it is what it is. The score was not really indicative of the way the game was last week. They're 0-2 straight up and against the spread as a home dog this year. They lost to San Francisco. They lost to Kansas City. They're getting 3.5 here, but I'm going to go ahead and take Jacksonville. I just think that they're the more desperate team. I don't think that things are as bad as they look. But this is a big game, no question. I think if they lose this game, I think that's telling, and I think I'd be real worried. But I think Baltimore's due for a loss.
They've also got San Francisco on deck next week, and you can't tell me that they're not looking forward to that football game. That could possibly be another Super Bowl preview when those two teams meet next week. I do like Jacksonville here as well with you. I take a look at this football team, Doug Peterson, their head coach. The better the competition, the better his football teams play. As a home dog against 750 or better teams, he's 6-2 against the spread in this home dog role here. I think they upend Baltimore in the contest.
In the last game Monday night, Philly and Seattle, just don't like what I'm seeing out of Philly right now. They've just, and we talked about their schedule, which was just, I mean, somebody please tell me what the NFL was thinking about putting this schedule together for the Eagles. It just was so unfair. Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, and Dallas all in a row. I mean, come on, that's just ridiculous. Now they got an easy next 3: Giants, twice, Arizona. So they'll get well. But I'm not so sure they're going to get well this week. I think Geno was playing his best. He had his best game against the Cowboys. He gets hurt, doesn't play last week, so forget about last week. They get Walker's back and healthy after being out for a few weeks. But this is the one that I like the best. Pete Carroll, 22-5 against the spread off back-to-back straight-up losses, including 13-0 at home. You can get that where? At the Playbook Football Preview Guide. They're also, as a team, 12-2 against the spread in their last 14 when they take on a 500 or better NFC opponent. And that's not a division team, by the way. And that is 2-0 for Seattle with that trend this year to make it 12-2. So Seattle's on a 4-game losing streak, but they're 3-1 against the spread in those 4. So they've been competitive. I think they're overdue for a win. I just think the Eagles are still kind of... I don't know. I just don't like the way they're going right now, and I think it's going to take another week for them to get healthy.
I'm going to elaborate on that great stat you gave about Seattle being off back-to-back straight-up and ATS losses. Our incredible stat in their Playbook newsletter this week is something close. Seattle 16-1 to the spread when coming off consecutive losses as a dog. 12-0 the last 12 games in that particular role. That's the role they're in this contest here. Look at Philadelphia's stats. My God, I mean, if you're a doctor and you're looking at them and you're putting their stats up on the X-ray machine, you're going to say, "I got bad news for you, Philadelphia. It looks like cancer has set in here." They've been out-yarded their last 6 football games in a row. That's Pittsburgh Steelers stuff, is what it is. And you mentioned about the travel factor here. A real good friend of mine, Howard Eskin, does Philadelphia radio. He's a real popular sports talk show guy. He's also the sideline guy for this football team, and he travels with them. And when I talk to him, he tells me each week about, oh, my God, this road trip, this one in particular here, nobody is looking forward to. They leave for this game on Sunday for the Monday game, and they get home on Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock. So, which means that they're playing this football game late and getting on a plane and doing like an all-overnighter. You know, you with me?
Yeah.
I mean, this travel factor is just murder for this football team, and I think it's catching up with them right now. I think Seattle pulls a surprise and wins this game as well.
Yeah, by the way, 43 with occasional rain. So
there you
it's going to be nice and gloomy.
Yep.
Monday night in Seattle. That's going to wrap it up.